They called her a washed-up soldier, too old for field work, too quiet to command a room, just another relic of a war most cadets only knew from case studies and training sims. She walked in without a salute, no stripes, no name tag, and the snickers came fast. But everything changed the second the general walked in, locked eyes with the emblem stitched under her sleeve, and went dead silent. Want to know who she really was? And why that emblem shut down the entire room? Hit subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Let's begin. Part 1. The ones you overlook always come first. It was orientation week at Dunridge Military Institute, the kind of place where you could feel discipline in the way the concrete echoed. Boots fell in rhythm. Cadets shouted cadence so sharp it sounded rehearsed. Instructors wore eyes like rifles, scanning, assessing, ready to reset a recruit's entire reality with 2 clipped words, "Start over." And then she showed up. No uniform. Just dark cargo pants, a field jacket with worn elbows, and a pace that suggested she didn't need directions. She carried herself like someone who knew the difference between walking with purpose and walking under orders. She entered through the west gate, past the chain-link fencing and the security booth where most visitors got stopped. But no one stopped her. Not yet. Until she hit the rotunda, the central hub where new cadets milled between assignments, water fountains, and awkward salutes. That's where the whisper started. Who let her in? She lost or something? Looks like somebody's aunt wandered off from the PX. The woman didn't respond, didn't even glance their way. She kept walking toward the admin wing, where today's leadership panels were scheduled. Part of the Academy's mentorship initiative, pairing old war veterans with up-and-coming officers. Her name was on the list. Nobody believed it. Cadet Levi Granger, 18 and full of certainty, spotted her near the check-in table. His pressed fatigues were fresh from logistics, and his name tag gleamed under fluorescent lights like he polished it hourly. He stepped in front of her, chin up, smile tight. "Ma'am," he said, "this area is restricted to authorized personnel. Mentorship panels are for verified veterans, not support staff." She stopped, looked him in the eye, then pulled a folded paper from her pocket and handed it over. It was an invitation, signed by Major Green, special guest panel 3D. Granger didn't budge. "This doesn't count as ID," he said. "Where's your veteran card? VA documentation? Base access tag? I was told the name would be enough." "It's not." She didn't argue. She just turned away and sat down on the edge of a stone bench near the flagpole. Her canvas bag hit the concrete with a soft thud. She rested her hands on her knees, stared out across the quad. The laughter started again, this time behind cupped hands. "She's bluffing. Bet she's someone's old admin assistant. Thought she could sneak in for free coffee." Granger smirked, still holding her paper. Probably worked phones back in the day. "Thinks that counts." Then something shifted. As she adjusted her sleeve, maybe to tighten her watch or scratch a mark, a patch slid into view, not on the outside of her jacket, sewn just under the inside seam, faded, black stitching, barely visible if you weren't looking directly at it. But Cadet Nadia Ku saw it. She stopped mid-step. Her books tilted in her arms. The patch was simple, a falcon's wing wrapped around a pair of crossed keys. Her mouth opened. She didn't say anything at first, because that symbol didn't appear in any regulation handbook. It wasn't part of the Army, Navy, Air Force, or even Space Force catalogs. It was something else. It was whispered, rumored. Ku had seen it once. Not in training, but in a redacted intelligence debrief her uncle, a former JSOC analyst, had left lying on a desk during a holiday visit. Classified unit insignia, authorization Alpha Phoenix, eyes only, and beneath it the same emblem. Wing and keys? She glanced around. No one else had seen it yet. Granger was still chuckling, showing the invitation to another cadet like proof of absurdity. "Hey," Ku said quietly, "where'd you get that patch?" The woman didn't look up. "Ma'am?" Ku stepped closer. "That emblem, it's not standard." Still no response, just a shift in the air, like the temperature had dropped a degree. Ku swallowed. "Did you serve with Phoenix Recovery?" she whispered. That was the name on the file, an operation with no timeline, no coordinates, just 3 words burned into the footer. Extraction, unconfirmed. Survivors, unknown. Now the woman looked up, just for a moment. Her eyes weren't cold, just tired, like someone who had watched too many things burn down and walked out of the ashes alone. Granger was still talking, still dismissing, still certain. And across the quad, a black SUV pulled up to the admin building. The doors opened, and a man in a decorated service uniform stepped out. The embroidered eagle, the 3 stars, the unmistakable gravity of someone who didn't need to introduce himself. General Arden McCall, the commandant. Every cadet on the quad stiffened instinctively. McCall didn't smile. He didn't wave. He scanned the open space like a drone's camera, and stopped the moment his eyes found her. For 3 full seconds he just stared. Then he moved. Fast, deliberate, straight toward the bench. The cadets cleared his path like parting water. He didn't speak until he was 3 feet from her. "Lieutenant Mathers," he said. Everyone froze. She stood, slow, smooth, like standing was something she did on instinct. And the general saluted. Not the quick, ceremonial flick they all practiced during morning drill. This one was slower, heavier, personal. Then he looked at the crowd behind her, his voice sharp. Who challenged her? Nobody answered. Nobody had to. Every head turned toward Granger. McCall's face didn't change, just his eyes. "Cadet, do you know what that emblem stands for?" Granger said nothing. McCall stepped forward, pulled up the edge of Mathers's sleeve, revealed the full insignia. His voice dropped barely above a whisper. "Omega Key Division, 5-star clearance, Black Zone extractions. You dismissed one of the most classified recovery pilots this nation ever produced." Granger went pale. Koo dropped her books. And every cadet in the quad learned what silence really meant. Nobody spoke. Not right away. The sound of flag cords clinking in the wind was the only thing moving after the general said the words, Omega Key Division. It wasn't just a name. It was a ghost. A phrase that lived in rumors, spoken only in after-hours conversations by officers who'd seen too much and talked too little. A division that didn't show up on rosters. That left no digital footprints. That only ever existed in the aftermath of things no one wanted to explain. And now the cadets were staring at the woman who wore its symbol under her sleeve. Lieutenant Mathers didn't change expression. She stood with the same quiet stillness she had held all morning. But now the weight of the silence belonged to everyone else. Granger swallowed but didn't speak. He still held her folded invitation in one hand, like it had turned into something sharp. General McCall didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "She flew blackout ops over Red Line airspace," he said calmly, eyes still on Granger. "Pulled 6 personnel out of a diplomatic firestorm before the press even knew there were boots on the ground. Do you know what kind of clearance that takes?" Granger barely shook his head. The general didn't move. "You dismissed her because you didn't recognize the patch, because she didn't walk in like she needed to prove herself to you. But people like her never do." He turned to Mathers then, the edge in his posture softening. "You're here for Panel 3D?" She nodded once. "That's right." McCall stepped aside. "Lead the way." But she didn't move immediately. Instead, she turned, just slightly, and looked at Cadet Koo. "You knew the emblem," she said. Koo stood straighter. "I saw it once, on a restricted memo. My uncle showed me accidentally." Mathers didn't smile. But something in her gaze relaxed for the first time that morning. Not many remember it. Fewer still recognize it. She adjusted her sleeve. "That matters." Koo nodded, unsure what to say. She had never seen a general salute anyone without waiting for protocol. Never heard silence hit a group of cadets like a physical blow. As Mathers and McCall walked toward the admin building, a ripple followed them. No one jeered. No one whispered. Granger stepped aside, eyes down, his voice low when he finally said, "I didn't know." McCall stopped. Looked at him, not with anger, with something heavier. "You're not supposed to know," he said. "That's the point. But what matters is how you treat people before you find out who they are." Then he walked on. And every cadet in the quad understood. This wasn't just another guest speaker. This was someone who had returned from places they'd never be allowed to ask about. Inside Briefing Room 3D, the atmosphere was different. Chairs sat arranged in an oval under buzzing ceiling lights. A projection screen stood blank at the front, waiting for slides that no one would be using today. Mathers didn't walk to the front. She didn't ask for introductions. She picked a seat near the middle, like any other guest, and sat with her hands folded on the table. Cadets filtered in more slowly now, their posture different, less performative, more alert. Koo entered first. Granger came in last. He sat in the back row, silent. When the last seat filled, Major Green stood briefly at the side of the room and cleared his throat. "Panel speaker today is Lieutenant..." He paused. "Actually, she can introduce herself." Mathers stood slowly, not stiff, not formal, just steady. "I'm Lieutenant Avery Mathers," she said. "Retired, technically. But I was asked to speak to you about what leadership looks like under pressure." She looked around the room, not harshly, Just honestly. I won't talk to you about medals. I didn't keep them. I won't talk about missions. Most of them are still sealed. But I will talk about moments. The ones nobody prepares you for. The ones that define you when no one else is watching. She reached into her jacket pocket and placed something small on the table. A patch, like the one Ku had seen. But this one was cleaner. Still dark. Still dangerous. The falcon wing wrapped around 2 black keys. Omega key. This isn't something I wore on my uniform, she said. It never left the inside of my flight bag. But every time we launched into territory we weren't supposed to be in, this patch reminded me why we went. She paused. To bring people back. A cadet raised a hand. Quietly, nervously. Ma'am, were you the pilot during the Belgrade blackout? That operation wasn't in the training materials. But it was legend. A 3-day window where communications went dark and 5 diplomats vanished en route to a NATO briefing. They reappeared later, uninjured. No transport record was ever found. Mathers didn't answer directly, but she met the cadet's eyes and nodded once, softly. The room went still. Another cadet asked, How did you handle the pressure? She glanced down at the patch. By not pretending it wasn't there. Then she looked up again. I didn't have to be fearless. I just had to fly. It was quiet after that. The kind of quiet that meant no one wanted to interrupt the wait in the room. Not out of fear, out of respect. And for Cadet Granger, sitting silently 2 rows back, it felt like something had broken and rebuilt all at once. He had spent the morning certain of everything. Now he wasn't sure about any of it. And maybe that was the beginning of something better. After the session ended, no one moved. Not at first. There was no bell, no dismissal, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the lingering gravity of someone who'd said everything without raising her voice once. Mathers stood, folded the black patch, and placed it back into the inner pocket of her jacket. She didn't thank them for their time. She didn't need to. The silence spoke louder. Major Green gave a slight nod, like even he was measuring her presence against everything he thought he knew about leadership. The cadets began to rise, slowly, carefully, like waking from something deeper than a lesson. Cadet Ku stayed behind. She stepped toward Mathers with both hands visible, like approaching something sacred. Ma'am, she said quietly, if I ever serve anywhere near what you've seen, how do I know I'm ready? Mathers didn't give her a speech. She looked her in the eye. You don't. She let that hang for a beat. But if the day comes and the mission lands in your lap, you show up anyway. That's the job. Ku nodded, but her throat tightened like she wanted to cry and couldn't figure out why. Cadet Granger hovered near the door. He looked like he wanted to apologize, but didn't know if he had the right. She turned to him before he could speak. I don't need your regret, she said simply. Granger straightened. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. You weren't trying, she corrected. That was the problem. His lips parted like he might argue, but then he closed them again. Just nodded. Thank you for the correction, he said finally. Mathers offered no smile. Just a short, quiet look. Not cruel, not forgiving. Real. You'll make a fine officer, she said. If you remember what today felt like. He swallowed. Hard. I won't forget. As she left the room, General McCall was waiting outside. He didn't salute again. Just held out a card, laminated, coded, bearing a serial number and 3 clearance stamps. Permanent access, he said. You don't wait in lobbies anymore. Mathers took it without looking at it, slid it into the breast pocket of her jacket. McCall hesitated, then added, I thought Omega was dissolved. It was, she said. We all disappeared. Some of us more literally than others. Why come back? He asked. After all these years. She looked past him toward the flag at the center of the quad. The wind was shifting again. The fabric flared once, snapped, settled. I didn't come back for the panel, she said. I came because I heard what the Academy teaches about leadership these days. All noise, all visibility, all posture. She paused. I wanted them to see what it looks like when the loudest person in the room isn't the one giving orders. McCall's face shifted slightly. Not a smile, not sorrow, something in between. You did more than that, he said. But Mathers was already walking, down the steps, toward the outer gate, her duffel over her shoulder, her jacket zipped halfway, the classified patch hidden again where it belonged. Near the walkways, small clusters of cadets stood talking in hushed tones. Some watched her go. Others didn't dare. None of them laughed. Near the main gate, Cadet Ku jogged to catch up with her one last time. She held something in her hand, a folded note scribbled in haste. Mathers saw it and shook her head. "You don't owe me anything," she said. Koo looked down. "It's not a thank you. It's a reminder. For me." Mathers paused, then took it, slipped it into her pocket. "Make sure you pass it on when it's your turn," she said. Koo nodded. Then Mathers kept walking. Didn't look back, didn't wave, didn't need to. That day, a washed-up soldier walked into an academy full of future officers and taught them more in an hour than most instructors do in a year. She didn't wear her medals. She didn't flash a title. She didn't even show credentials. She didn't have to. Because when the general saw her emblem and saluted before anyone else understood why, the message was clear. You never doubt the ones who walk quietly. You never dismiss the ones who already survived everything you're still training for. Have you ever seen someone overlooked until the truth spoke for them? What would you have done in that room when the general recognized her? Tell us in the comments. And if this story made you think, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss another. We read every story, and we'll be back tomorrow with another tale about quiet strength and the people who carry weight without asking to be seen.